Alexandrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to branding, which makes my next guest, Brian Thorp, CEO of Wealthtender, the perfect guest to have. For the last 4 years, financial advisors have been able to compliantly use testimonials as part of their array of marketing opportunities, but about 10% have been using them so far. Brian weighs in on that and how advisors can compliantly and easily participate in this. Thank you so much for being on the Brand Stories podcast. When I thought about the power that testimonials had, I figured you are the guy to tell everybody all about that and how great it is for branding and marketing. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure, Allie.
So first question to start off the podcast, what is your favorite brand and why?
Yeah, so I don't know that this is going to qualify as the most original answer, but for me, I'm going to have to say Coca-Cola. Of course, I've tried to really migrate away from drinking that much Coke altogether. So to their credit, they've done a great job with the brand, but as we mature in life and realize perhaps we don't need so much sugar in our life. But nonetheless, I just think back to growing up and whether it was just the pervasiveness of the brand, the iconic shape of the bottle, it was just something that, resonated so inherently. And again, for better or worse, somebody might make the argument, whether it's Coke or McDonald's, perhaps that's not the best example if they can really infiltrate their brand into the minds of kids that are that young. But to the credit of the brand, I look at Coca-Cola beyond just that, how they have always continued to evolve their branding and recognition of the changing times and any number of instances when they've been able to really incorporate their brand into more contemporary things that might be going on. I mean, the Teach the World to Sing was something many, many decades ago now that really just resonated. And to their credit, I think they just always do a really good job of finding ways to evolve their brand and continue to stay top of mind decades after they launched the secret formula that got them to where they are today.
Yeah. Well, actually, if it makes you feel any better, you are the first person to say Coca-Cola on the podcast. So good job there. And secondly, I think it was interesting. So you saying that they were evolving the brand. I feel like the work that you're doing with getting advisors to use testimonials is evolving their brand and getting it to be the latest and greatest. So just to back up a little bit, if you could explain what Wealthtender is and your role there.
Sure. So I launched Wealthtender in 2019 as the industry's first SEC-compliant online reviews platform on the back of the SEC marketing rule, providing financial advisors and wealth management firms the opportunity to finally let their clients be heard and collect testimonials as well as be able to promote them online. Importantly, those online reviews can play a really impactful role, not only in traditional SEO, search engine optimization, but now whatever we're going to call the AI tool optimization, kind of maybe answer engine optimization, AEO. We're seeing that those online reviews and sources of credibility are not only, of course, accelerating the trust building process with prospects, but also helping advisors and wealth management firms to surface more frequently in search results online. So it's been a lot of fun building that out. Wealthtender.com itself is a consumer-facing platform. So as we're talking about branding, something that we're excited about going forward is helping more consumers gain familiarity with the Wealthtender brand, as well as advisors as they continue to learn more about the ways that they can leverage Wealthtender in their own marketing efforts.
Love it. And one of those ways that they could and should use it is the latest award that you created. So the voice of the client, which I thought was amazing. And also, why has the industry not done this yet? So thank you for doing that finally.
Yeah, we were excited about that. So we did launch earlier this year the industry's first award program based on online reviews. And when you look across any other profession or industry, similar award programs have existed. It really, to your point, something that I feel our industry really needed, because so many of the award programs that exist today have historically been based on size or revenue. And clearly there are some large firms that do a very good job. But of course, there's plenty of smaller firms that are doing terrific work, and they haven't necessarily had that opportunity to qualify for awards and really gain that recognition. And I don't feel like that's certainly fair for them to be penalized just because of size. And ironically, I would say if you were thinking about like an awards program in the restaurant industry, the way that the award programs have historically worked with financial services is that you would essentially be giving the best restaurants award to McDonald's and Subway across the board. And clearly there are plenty of other great restaurants. And so if you move away from assets under management and move away from revenue, you really start to unlock the real beauty of our industry, which is that it is just so diverse. And there are great firms and financial advisors, some very large, some much smaller, that are all doing great work for their clients.
You're absolutely right. And that was such a good analogy. I appreciate that. So, do you feel like then, as the industry evolves, do we need to stop looking at AUM as much as we do and instead focus on whether it's another metric or whether it's, the quality or the number of financial lives that somebody's impacting, something like that?
Yeah, I think those metrics you just named are relevant. I think everything is really part of a broader mosaic. And so, with the Wealthtender Voice of the Client Awards really based on client satisfaction, what people are saying about their experience, I would argue is more important than size. With that said, there is something to be said clearly for a firm that has achieved particular size is probably a reflection that they are doing good work and that they've grown in a thoughtful manner. But looking at any of these metrics in isolation, I think would be problematic. And so that's one of the things that we say with all of the disclosures as well, with any award or any evaluation of an advisor, is it's important to take not only one particular aspect of that firm or that advisor into consideration, but to think about multi-factors, whether it's the reviews that they've received, the awards they've received, the experience, the education, the credentials that they've earned, and of course, ensuring that they're properly licensed as well.
Yeah. So at a time when, even if I'm scrolling on Amazon, I'm checking reviews for something that might be, $30. It's not really a huge deal to me, but I'm still perusing and curious which one is the best. Why do you feel like the financial advice industry isn't further along with testimonials?
Sure. So definitely the biggest impediment was the inability for advisors to be able to proactively solicit reviews from their clients. And so when you think about other industries or just products, or transactional type experiences, if somebody has a hotel that they had a good experience, or more likely a bad experience, they're more likely unsolicited to share their thoughts because it's a place where they can vent. Or in some cases, they've had a great experience. Maybe it's a restaurant where they just really loved it. Maybe they've got a personal connection to the somebody that works there, or the management team, and they want to pay it forward and let other people know about a great experience. And with financial advisors and wealth management, a couple of things that really had been problematic prior to the SEC marketing rule was that, one, it would really be difficult for an individual to go out and proactively write a review when most advisors didn't have platforms that were available for them to do so. And then two, without actually asking or inviting your clients to write a review, it's just the fact of life that people aren't necessarily going to take that opportunity to say, oh, you know what, today I want to go write a review about my advisor. But when you invite them to write a review, we see that people love their advisors. They're happy to write the review. And that's what I think is really important, is not only are people excited to write that review when invited to do so, but we definitely always see that they've got a story to tell as well. So there's something that has really resonated in their lives thanks to the advisor and the work that they've done, and getting to see those short stories, which each review really represents, has really just been heartwarming. And I think as we go forward, if we just think about branding for the industry or the profession as a whole, unfortunately, prior to the marketing rule, what people really heard about advisors, if they weren't directly working with an advisor, is just what makes the nightly news. And that's the stories like Bernie Madoff and all the bad actors. But the reality is that millions of Americans have incredible relationships with their advisors. And so I'm hopeful that from a branding perspective for the profession, as more advisors have reviews online and more consumers, more Americans are able to see those glowing reviews that offset some of what they might otherwise hear on the nightly news. They'll realize that those are more the exception. And in fact, the vast majority of advisors are doing incredible work for the clients that they serve.
Yeah. You know what? That's an important framing of things, because I can understand an advisor saying, so what if I don't choose to use testimonials, or I don't believe in them, or whatever it is. But you're right. Collectively speaking, if there are a million great testimonials out there for the financial advice community, then it's lifting up the community versus, like you said, people who feel like they're used car salesmen and just sleazy or whatever it is. That's a great point.
Yeah, and fortunately, what we've seen with the thousands of reviews that advisors have collected through Wealthtender is that, of course, people do love their advisors. And it's extraordinarily rare that we see a review below 5 stars. I mean, we've collected thousands of reviews, and greater than 99% are 5-star reviews. So that's just a testament to the great job that advisors are doing out there as well.
Absolutely. So you've also done a great job of dispelling some of the myths, because I feel like whether they're myths or whether they're excuses, somebody will say, I don't have the time, compliance is going to tell me no, whatever it is. What do you feel like are among the biggest impediments? And how would you say, yes, that might be a challenge, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do this?
Sure. So at the outset, compliance was definitely the biggest impediment, fear of the unknown, fear of what could be forthcoming from the SEC in terms of exams or sweeps, and really penalizing perhaps those that did move first and did move in a manner that would be in violation of the rule. But what we've seen, and to the credit of the advisors and wealth management firms that have been among the first movers, is that as long as you're following the playbook, and by that I mean the SEC marketing rule and in fact the actual playbook that we provide that helps advisors and wealth management firms abide by the rule, to the SEC's credit, it's really not that hard to comply and have a very thoughtful and effective testimonial marketing program in place. And so now we're not necessarily seeing so much of the excuse or the impediment around compliance, because I think most advisors and wealth management firms now understand, yes, there are compliant tools like Wealthtender and ways that we can compliantly implement this type of a strategy. Now, I would say what we're seeing a little bit more is just inertia, people not yet ready to get started. They're thinking about it, and then a little bit of imposter syndrome as well, meaning that advisors still have that fear. Well, what if my clients don't like me? What if I get a negative review? And that's really where we've worked to educate them now, not only based on what we believe, but now what we've seen, which is, again, that when you do invite your clients to write a review, people have glowing things to say. And I do think now a number of advisors and wealth management firms are seeing their peers, whether it's an advisor down the street or maybe a competing wealth management firm that did choose to get started. They are collecting reviews. Their clients love them. And that's forcing the advisors and wealth management firms that haven't begun collecting testimonials to realize, well, of course, our clients love us too. We just have to ask.
So to that point of you just have to ask, I can imagine for some advisors, there's the awkwardness or there's the, I feel like I'm putting upon my client to ask them for a review versus it's just a natural extension of service and asking their opinion. How would you help them to reshape that and to find a natural way to ask their clients for a review?
Great question. We have a template that we really recommend starting with. It's fairly short and sweet, but very tactful, and less about asking the clients to write a review about you for the benefit of you, the advisor or the firm, but really to put themselves in the shoes of where they were as a prospect when they were evaluating financial advisors, and how essentially by writing a review, they can really pay it forward. So as a wealth management firm inviting your clients to write a review, it's more about, of course, letting them know this is completely optional, but if you do have the time to share your feedback, it can help other people like you decide if we may be a good fit to work together. So that's really how we suggest reframing it a little bit, which of course everybody knows this is a great opportunity to also help out the advisor. And in many instances, the clients of advisors and wealth management firms are just as excited to share their feedback. They're obviously already paying for the financial services that they receive, but they do feel a more emotional connection. In some cases, these relationships have been a couple of decades in the making. And so it's not very transactional like some other businesses or professions. These are really long ingrained relationships that have grown in many instances over a number of years, and a very comfortable opportunity for those clients to share their feedback, and happy to do so.
So I apologize for putting you on the spot, but if you have any success cases to share, I'm sure that would help advisors frame in their mind, so-and-so just grew their business so much, or even just realize my clients really appreciate XYZ, and I didn't know that. So if you have anything that you could share, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. And I would say along those lines, just generally, one of the things that we've heard from advisors and firms is that in some cases they've been surprised by what it is that their clients are saying about their experience. So I think what we're seeing is that when you put that invitation out to clients, there's something that comes top of mind for them that they want to write about, a difference that the advisor made in their lives that might not necessarily be the first thing or even the thing at all that the advisor would have thought that their client would have shared. So there's all sorts of what I would consider success stories in that regard, and also how that can help the advisors and wealth management firms take that feedback into consideration to start to recognize we didn't realize the impact we were making in our clients' lives in this particular area. Maybe that needs to become a little bit more part of our marketing, our message, our branding even, to prospective clients better understand some of the ways that we're able to help them. And if nothing else, because so many of the reviews are talking about how their advisor makes them feel, it's really more about that emotional side of the relationship, which again, I think a lot of prospective clients, people that have never worked with an advisor before, they feel a little standoffish. They feel like, hey, there's a buttoned up financial advisor and it's, a little too much for me to handle. When in reality, these are very personal and emotional relationships where people get deeply connected with their advisors.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest to that myself. So as far as reasons for financial advisors to do this, so they might say to themselves, look, I have to invest in like SEO. We've got to do social media. I have a bajillion things to do on top of the fact that I have to advise clients. Tell me how I'm supposed to make more time for this. How would you explain to them how it fits seamlessly into their branding and it's not a big ask?
I would say the greatest thing is this is such a tremendous opportunity in that it really doesn't cost much, nor does it take a tremendous amount of time if you follow the playbook, use the tools that we make available, and then you get that invitation out to your clients. We typically see, depending upon the advisor and the firm, somewhere between 10 and 20% of the advisor's clients will respond within the first 48 hours and a bit of a trickle from there. And if it's coming in through a platform like Wealthtender, it just takes a few seconds to add the disclosures. They get published. And then you can, if you don't have a lot of time, at a minimum, now they're going to be showing up online. They're going to work for you from an SEO perspective. If you do have a consistent positive experience, you qualify for the highly rated award, which helps, again, not only with accelerating that trust building process with prospects, but also with SEO and increasing visibility and that next generation of AI tools. So there's a lot of benefits that come just from getting the reviews, and that doesn't take a lot of effort. Now, we do encourage advisors and firms, once they have the reviews, to start to think about how they can incorporate testimonials into their marketing activities. And that may take a little bit more time. But again, I would suggest that for many advisors and firms, it's not necessarily a heavy lift. It's just something that's a little bit new and different, but something that can very easily be incorporated into marketing plans going forward as well.
Absolutely. It can definitely be a huge lift to your branding. So how does an advisor get the voice of the client? What achievement or what level do they need to reach to be able to receive that?
So with the award that we launched, the Wealthtender Voice of the Client Highly Rated Advisor Award, there's also a firm award. For the individual advisor award, they need to have at least 10 reviews that have come from clients that were not compensated in any form to write the review and where no conflicts of interest exist, and then have an overall star rating of 4.75 or higher, with reviews that have come in over a period of time. The current 2025 award actually dates back to January of 2024. So for the advisors that have reviews that meet that criteria since that time, they've been able to qualify for the award. I'd say today, in the first couple of months since we've launched the award program, it's probably around 45 advisors that have qualified for that award. And then for the firm award, there's a similar opportunity. It's just a little bit more nuanced in terms of the qualifying criteria based on the number of advisors who are at the firm that are participating in the review solicitation process.
And I can imagine, so the awards process, just being able to recap all of those testimonials and whatnot has to be so rewarding for the advisor too, to see these kind of testaments to themselves and their work and feel like, yeah, you know what, all those hours and the hard work and whatnot, it was obviously worth it because it literally changed people's lives.
Absolutely. And again, I would say beyond just the marketing benefits and some of those traditional benefits we think about with online reviews, there's also what we've seen take place within wealth management firms, where as those reviews are coming in, it's really creating that sense of pride. Like, wow, look at the impact we've really made in the lives of these clients, and really reinforcing the culture that so many firms are looking to really grow and blossom, which is a culture of exceptional client service. And so I do think it's one of these things that really can compound on itself. As you get those reviews coming in, it's really a reflection of gratitude from clients, and then providing that much more fuel into those at the firms that are interested in ensuring that they can continue to live up to delivering an exceptional client experience.
Great. So this may be a stupid question, but if an advisor were to get arguably a testimonial during their meeting, so their client says, this was the most fabulous experience I've ever had, blah, blah. Can they utilize that verbal exchange, or do they need to then ask the person, please go to my website? And if you could say something to that effect, I would appreciate it.
Sure. Either approach should work fine. Of course, you always want to ensure you have that permission. So if somebody does articulate some really glowing comments verbally within a meeting, just letting them know, like, hey, thank you so much. This really means the world to us. And by the way, would you mind if I take those comments and put those into a review online that we can share with others to help them decide if we may be a good fit to work together? So that's a good way in that case to take it from verbal to let them know, ask their interest and consent, And then it wouldn't be bad on top of that if whether they choose to do it themselves and inviting them to write that review, or if the advisor wants to do it on their behalf with that verbal consent, but then just letting that client ultimately have that final sign off to say, hey, just want to make sure this looks good to you before we publish this online.
Love that. So if anybody is listening to this and is saying, my branding is not anywhere near it needs to be, I should be using testimonials, what would you say to them to get themselves to where they want to be?
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where the first step is just to do just that, to take that first step and to not feel overly overwhelmed or fearful. This isn't the type of thing where once you get the path or get the ball rolling, you need to take advantage of every single opportunity that comes with having reviews. So as I mentioned previously, just first and foremost, getting started, and we provide the playbook to help do this, but you do need to have policies and procedures in place. And we really try to do the heavy lifting on that front, where advisors and firms can use a template we've created, update some of the different elements based on their preferences. Once they have that in place, it's very easy to then send out an invitation to their current clients to write a review. And then as those come in, it's very easy to add the disclosures to get those published online. And all of that, I would suggest, could be done in a couple of hours at most. And so not a really big time commitment. And then you can think about a little bit more time commitment down the road if you don't have time to do anything else. That's a really impactful way to get started, get the SEO working for you, potentially qualify for the awards that can help even more from an SEO and AI tool perspective. And then down the road, start to incorporate those testimonials into your marketing activities when you do have a little bit more time.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And everybody, do testimonials. I know I don't have the right to shake my finger and wag at you, but it's so powerful from what Brian said. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're not using testimonials. I'm just saying.
I would agree.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Allie.